There is a possibility that in the next few days, we might see a flash crash from Luna. We're going to discuss why I think so and possibly what you can do to take advantage of that. But for starters, welcome to Crypto Saver. Now, this video is not about applying astrology to the chart of Luna and telling you where it's going to go. Instead, we're going to be speaking about actual current events regarding Luna, regarding Terra, and what's in store for it this coming week. And for those of you that are unaware, right now we're dealing with a situation where Anchor's reserves are below 10 million. Over the next couple days, those reserves should go to zero. And if that happens, Anchor's interest rate that it's paying out to depositors would go from a 19.5 interest rate to below 10%. Now, what Terraform Labs has done, they've put it to a vote and they've agreed that LFG Luna Foundation Guard will be responsible for burning about 9.5 million Luna to mint UST, and then that UST will then be deposited into Anchor's yield reserve, which will help Anchor continue paying out that 19.5 APY. But where the issue comes in is, can LFG burn all that Luna and mint the UST quickly enough to make sure that Anchor's yield reserves are replenished before they run out? Because if they run out and all of a sudden that APY goes down to 9%, that could possibly lead to a lot of FUD, a lot of articles writing about Terra and about Luna, and the fact that Anchor just cut their yield overnight by more than half. So what we are going to do right now, we're going to discuss why that possibility actually exists. And to begin, let's first go over to the Agora forum where the whole proposal first began being spoken about, which was asking LFG to deposit money into the yield reserve. So going off Do One's replies here, right, the founder of Terraform Labs, he ends up saying at one point that doing all 450 million all at once signals strength, and I think with all the reserve depletion FUD the team has AHD to go through, I think there's a lot of virtue in doing it all at once. So what can we take from this? Well, someone was asking, well, if you are going to be taking this Luna and burning it right now, are you going to be replenishing that yield like on an hourly basis until you get to 450 or not? Do One says, no, we're going to burn 9.5 million Luna, and once we are done burning all that Luna, only then will we take that UST, which should be 450 million UST, only then will we take that UST and deposit that into the Anchor yield reserve. So here is what we are going to do. We're actually going to look on the chain, find these wallets, and figure out how far into the process they really are right now. So what I have opened up right now is actually Terraform Labs wallet. Yes, so this is actually what Terraform Labs holds. You could see that they hold about nearly $17 billion worth of Luna. This would be about $3 million worth of UST, and obviously a bunch of other stables. And we're going to scroll all the way down. And what I want to first look for here is when they ended up funding LFG, right, Luna Guard Foundation, because they only did that a few weeks ago when they set up LFG. And let's see if we could find it real quick. So here we go. We found a transaction. And as you could see, it says Terraform Labs sent 50 million Luna to the Luna Foundation Guard. Now we're going to click on this. Once we click on this, we now have the wallet for the Luna Foundation Guard. We can see its current assets. Currently, it holds 40 million Luna. Now, we do know that when LFG was set up by TFL did end up depositing 50 million Luna into LFG, which we just saw of that transaction. So they have 40 million left over, about 40 million 500,000. Now, that makes sense because 9.5 million Luna from LFG is going to be used to replenish the yield reserve. Let's go into the transactions here, and we can see that on the 10th, we had, what is it here? So we had, if we add the two numbers together, right, this is 9,490,000 plus 10,000, that would be 9.5 million Luna. So we can see that 9.5 million Luna was moved out of the LFG wallet, which coincides with what's supposed to be happening. So let's go see where this money has been moved to. And if we click over to this last wallet over here, so here we go. This is the wallet that the 9.5 million Luna was sent to. Let's do this. Let's go all the way to the bottom. Let's see what the first transactions were within this wallet. And we can see that this wallet was basically set up specifically for this, for receiving the Luna from LFG and then burning that Luna and minting UST with it. Very first transaction we had right here was LFG sending the 10,000 Luna to this wallet, right? And I'm guessing they sent, and here's the other 9.4 million Luna that was sent, right? So this is the only thing that this wallet's currently being used for, which is the burning and the minting process. So how far into the process are they right now? Okay. So the total value of this wallet right now sits at just at around $500 million, right? So about 318 million is in Luna value, and about 183 million is in UST. So they've begun the burning process. Now, we know that this balance right here for UST needs to get to 450 million UST for them to finally take that balance and deposit that into the Anchor reserves. So let's pay attention to how much Luna is being burnt right now. And if we look, we can actually see that every single minute, right, 0846, 0845, 0844, every single minute on the dot to the second, we have 1,000 Luna being burnt and UST is being minted. Now, the UST side will obviously fluctuate because that depends on the price of Luna when it's being burnt in that moment. And we can see that apparently at this point, it's obviously that it's being done, just by a bot that's just sitting there and essentially every single minute on the dot, burning 1,000 Luna and minting that UST. Now, we did see a bit earlier, if I go to the first day, there was periods of times when 10,000 Luna was being burnt and a lot more UST was being minted. But for the past, I would say 24 hours now, 36 hours, it's been sticking to this 1,000 Luna per second burn. Now, if we know that they're burning 1,000 Luna per minute, that means they're burning 60,000 Luna per hour, which comes out to 1,440,000 Luna per day is being burned, and then obviously UST being minted. At the same time, we can see that currently right now they have 5,992,000 Luna that has to be burned. If we divide those two numbers between themselves, we get 4.16 days. So the current rate of them burning 1,000 Luna per minute, it would take them 4.16 days for them to finally get through all that burn. But they do not necessarily have to burn all that Luna because we know they're looking to raise 450 million UST, right? But their wallet is obviously worth 501 million. So they do not have to burn all that Luna. They could obviously burn less of that Luna. So let's say we need $50 million less, right? So we're just going to plug this in here. And we know that Luna right now is trading around $53. That's the market price. We can see that's about, so they are fine with having 943,000 Luna left over in their wallet as long as Luna stays at that price of $53. Because obviously if it drops in value, that means they have to start burning still more Luna to get to that 450 million UST. And if we account for that, so instead of say 5.9 million Luna that has to be burnt, if we just do 5 million Luna that has to be burnt, divide that by how much they're currently burning, we can see that in this case, we are down to 3.47 days, okay? So two things here. If they are only burning 1,000 Luna per minute, and if the price of Luna stays at $53 per Luna, it will take them 3.5 days from now, and I'm making this video at February 13th at 9 a.m. So 3.5 days from this moment is when they should have 450 million ready to place within the Anchor reserves. But now let's look at what the burn actually is. Like how much of a deficit is Anchor running out? So right now, if we go over to the required, so this is the required interest that Anchor has to be paying out. We can see that currently they're paying out about $3,250,000 per day. Now, how much are they collecting? They're collecting just about 1.5 or so. So they're collecting 1,530,000. They're paying out 3,250,000. That comes out to a deficit of 1,720,000. Let's bring up the reserves. The actual reserves right now are sitting at about 6,300,000. If we divide the two numbers in between themselves, we end up getting 3.66 days. So these are important numbers. Right now, the yield reserve will run out in 3.66 days. Okay, so just slightly over 3.5 days. While at the current rate of the burning of that Luna by LFG and the minting of UST, they are on track to replenish the yield reserve in 3.47 days. Now, to simplify, so you're not looking at these decimal points, let's figure out, because obviously you might be confused as to what 3.66 days actually is. So let's do this. We'll take 24 hours in a single day, we'll divide that by 10. And we end up seeing that every decimal point, basically, every tenth is worth 2.4 hours, right? It's worth 2.4 hours. If we take 3.66 days, subtract that by 3.47 days, we will see that there's about, we'll round this up to 0.20, right? Now, if we take that 2 and multiply that by 2.4, so we know that every tenth is worth 2.4, and we have 2 tenths here, basically. Multiply that, we get 4.8 hours. So the window that exists between when LFG will finish that burn and when the yield reserve will run out, we're talking about less than 5 hours for that to happen. Less than 5 hours, that is it. That's all the time that exists. And as it stands right now, they might just make it, right? They have that 5-hour grace period to work with, but we can see things change. 2 things can make this much more difficult on them. The first being Luna drops in price, because again, we're basing this off the idea that Luna stays at $53 moving forward for the next 3.5 days. If Luna goes to $48, $47, they have to still burn more Luna to get that 450 million UST ready. On the flip side, let me show you this. Right now, the required interest is still going up day after day after day. If we look at the total amount that's being collected, it's not doing much. It's really not doing much. So we might still see added pressure that we're not sitting at a deficit of 1,720,000. We might be at a deficit tomorrow at 1,800,000. And then the day after that at 1,850,000, for example. And this might be enough to all of a sudden make it that window of 5 hours is not enough. Just imagine this for a second. All of a sudden, let's say they can't get it within this window and the reserve goes to 0. Imagine all of the press that would occur online about Anchor's yield now being half of what it was. There would be a lot of drama. And I can imagine there will be people selling out of their Luna position for those that are unaware about what's happening. That could cause a lot of selling pressure. If we look currently at what the liquidation profile is, so this is people that are using B-Luna to borrow money from Anchor. And if their collateral drops in value, they get liquidated, and that also causes additional selling pressure. And we can see that right now, with the current price of $53, we're okay until we start getting below 50. After that, we see some liquidations coming in. Obviously, the further to the right the chart is, the more USTs is the more B-Luna and UST would be liquidated there. So in this case, we can see that at $42, the loan value there is 200 million UST. Like, imagine the liquidation that would occur there. Makes it even worse, and we see a lot of spikes here. Like, if somehow we end up seeing that the price falls, to 42, the amount of liquidations that will start coming in here, because once this gets liquidated, the price will drop a few bucks very, very quickly. These guys can get liquidated, and this just causes cascading liquidations. I mean, let alone this over here, where there's almost $500 million worth of loans that would get liquidated at $33. So here's what you can do. I'll be watching this carefully. All of these wallets that I'm showing you guys is going to be in the description below, so you can watch it yourself. There's no reason to be second guessing here. What you want to be doing here, you're going to be paying attention to that UST balance and crunch the math the same way that I did to figure out, are they going to make it or not? If they're not going to make it, my educated guess, we're going to see a drop in the price of Luna. Drops enough. There's so many liquidations that can take place, because just a week ago, and I made a video about this, Anchor allowed borrowers to borrow more on their collateral, and to the point that you could borrow that you're within 5% of getting liquidated out of the gate. So that, with this current window, it's the perfect recipe for a little bit of a disaster, right? And if we do see that big dip, I would personally be a buyer. I'm not giving you financial advice here, but I would be a buyer there, because it should be a temporary crash in price. Because we know that come moment they get that 450 million UST, they're going to replenish that yield. Things should calm down again. But until that happens, if that yield reserve is depleted, there's going to be a lot of FUD. There's going to be a lot of people panicking. And I think that's an opportunity that if you want to maybe trade that out, you see dip to the 40s, dip to the 30s, you hop in, because I would say probably by the end of that today, there'll probably be a recovery already. Now, it could be wrong. I mean, if you ask my wife, she would say I'm always wrong. And the way things can change here is that LFG might see that they will not make it in time, and they will say, screw it, we're not just going to burn 1,000 Luna right now per minute. Let's ramp it up to 10,000 Luna. If they just do that, then they'll save the day, right? They don't have to necessarily just burn 1,000 Luna. I mean, I could even show you guys here. Let's go to the, let me just make sure I could find this here. They were burning as much as 10,000 Luna in one shot here. Just trying to find it. I mean, well, you can see in this case 5,000 Luna, so they can burn more than 1,000 Luna. So this is not like a high probability thing of it happening, but something to keep your eye on, because if they stick to 1,000 Luna, and if they do not raise that, if they don't burn more, and we still see that deficit stay in place or get worse, we do have a possibility that, I mean, on Wednesday, I think everything kind of aligns for Wednesday being that day, or maybe even like Tuesday night, right? So Tuesday night going to Wednesday, I think that is when we're going to see all this come down to the wire. Now, if you enjoyed this quick little video to tell you what's going on and how you yourself can kind of get involved and keep track of things, I would appreciate a thumbs up. You could also subscribe for more Terra-related content. I do have a Discord free of charge to join, by the way, if you want to speak to me directly. Other than that, thank you for listening and have a great day.